We live in the age of information. If you don't know something, you Google it. If Google doesn't know, you ask an AI. We like to pretend that we have conquered ignorance. But the uncomfortable truth is that history is full of holes. Huge, gaping voids where explanation should be. Sometimes people vanish into thin air. Sometimes civilizations collapse overnight. And sometimes the universe drops a puzzle piece that doesn't fit anywhere. Let's look at the mysteries that keep historians drinking at night and make detectives question their career choices. The Perfect Hijacking, D.B.Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a man bought a ticket for a flight from Portland to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. He was polite, wore a suit and sunglasses, and ordered a bourbon and soda. Then he calmly handed the flight attendant a note saying he had a bomb. He demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The FBI gave him the money. The plane took off again, heading to Mexico. Somewhere over the dense forests of Washington state, Cooper lowered the rear stairs, jumped into the freezing rain, and vanished. He was never found. The money was never used. FBI agents spent decades searching the woods. They found a few rotting bills by a river years later, but no body and no parachute. D.B. Cooper became a folk hero because he hurt no one and embarrassed the authorities perfectly. He is the only unresolved air piracy case in American commercial aviation history. Logic suggests he probably died on impact. But the romantic part of our brains hopes he is sipping a margarita on a beach somewhere, laughing at the FBI. The ship that sailed itself, the Mary Celeste. In 1872, a British brig spotted the Mary Celeste drifting in the Atlantic. When they boarded her, they found nothing. The ship was in seaworthy condition. The cargo was untouched. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. There was food on the table, but the 10 people on board, including the captain, his wife, and their 2-year-old daughter, were gone. The single lifeboat was missing. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no damage from a storm. Why would an experienced captain order his crew to abandon a perfectly good ship in the middle of a calm ocean? Did they hallucinate? Did they fear an explosion from the alcohol cargo? Did a sea monster eat them? The ocean is excellent at keeping secrets. The Mary Celeste was sailed to port, but the crew was never seen again. It remains the ultimate maritime ghost story, mostly because real life rarely leaves the dinner table set before a disaster. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers trekked into the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union. They never returned. When searchers found their tent, it had been cut open from the inside. The hikers had fled into the snow, mostly barefoot and underdressed. Their bodies were found scattered down the slope. Some died of hypothermia, but others had gruesome injuries, skull fractures, and chest trauma comparable to a car crash, yet with no external wounds. One woman was missing her tongue and eyes. Clothing traces showed radiation. The Soviet investigators closed the case, stating the cause of death was a compelling natural force. That is bureaucratic speak for we have absolutely no clue. Theories range from an avalanche to secret military tests to a Yeti attack. Recently, science suggested a weird type of delayed avalanche, but that doesn't explain the missing tongue or the radiation. Something terrified those experienced hikers enough to make them rip their own tent open and run to their deaths in the freezing dark. The killer who owned the media, Jack the Ripper. London, 1888. The Whitechapel district was a grim place. Then it became a slaughterhouse. A serial killer began targeting women, murdering them with surgical precision. What makes Jack the Ripper unique isn't just the brutality, it's the taunting. Letters were sent to the police and newspapers, claiming to be the killer. The famous From Hell letter arrived with half a human kidney preserved in wine. The police were helpless. They arrested weirdos, lunatics, and random butchers, but the killings eventually just stopped. The Ripper was never caught. Modern sleuths have named everyone as a suspect. A royal prince, a doctor, a painter, even a woman. But the truth is buried in the smog of Victorian London. Jack the Ripper was the first modern celebrity killer, realizing that if you terrify the press enough, you become immortal. The book nobody can read, The Voynich Manuscript. In a library at Yale University, there is a book that nobody can read. It's called the Voynich Manuscript. It dates back to the 15th century and contains 240 pages of elegant handwriting and strange illustrations. It depicts plants that don't exist on Earth, astrological charts that make no sense, and naked women bathing in green tubes. The problem is the language. It isn't Latin, Greek, or any known human dialect. The world's best cryptographers have tried to crack it. The guys who broke the Nazi Enigma code in World War II took a look at this book and gave up. Some theories say it's a lost language. Others claim it's a medical manual from another dimension. The most cynical and perhaps realistic theory is that it was an elaborate medieval prank. Imagine a bored monk deciding to invent a gibberish language just to troll future generations. If that's the case, it is the most successful practical joke in human history. We are still scratching our heads over a doodle from 600 years ago. The apocalypse of the Sea Peoples. Around 1200 BC, the Bronze Age civilizations were thriving. You had the Egyptians, the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, everything was going great. Then, suddenly, everyone died. Records from the time describe a terrifying enemy known simply as the Sea Peoples. We don't know who they were. We don't know where they came from. All we know is that they arrived by ship, burned every city they found to the ground, and erased entire empires from the map. They didn't leave a forwarding address. After dismantling civilization and sending humanity into a dark age that lasted centuries, they just vanished. Historians have argued about their identity for decades. Were they Vikings? Refugees? Angry pirates? We have no idea. They treated the Bronze Age like a sandcastle, kicked it over, and left us to pick up the pieces. The call that was never returned, the wow signal. In 1977, an astronomer named Jerry Eman was reviewing radio telescope data when he saw something impossible. A loud, strong radio signal coming from the constellation Sagittarius. It bore all the hallmarks of an artificial transmission. It was so startling that he circled it on the printout and wrote "Wow" in the margin. This was it. The moment we had been waiting for. First contact. Scientists immediately turned their telescopes back to that spot, expecting a follow-up message. Maybe a "hello" or "we come in peace." Instead, they got silence. We have listened to that exact spot for nearly 50 years, and there has been nothing. It's the cosmic equivalent of getting a text that says, "we need to talk," and then the other person turns off their phone forever. Was it aliens? A secret military satellite? A glitch in the computer? We don't know. The universe ghosted us, and we still haven't moved on. The missing universe, dark matter and dark energy. This mystery doesn't involve old books or dead bodies. It involves everything, literally everything. When astronomers calculate the mass of the universe based on the stuff we can see, stars, planets, gas, you, me, the math doesn't work. Galaxies spin too fast. They should fly apart. There isn't enough visible gravity to hold them together. So scientists invented a placeholder term, dark matter. It's invisible, we can't touch it, and we don't know what it is, but it makes up about 27% of the universe. Then it gets worse. The universe is expanding and the expansion is accelerating. Something is pushing everything apart. We call this dark energy. That's another 68%. Do the math. Normal matter, the stuff we can see and understand, makes up less than 5% of the universe. Imagine walking into your house and realizing you can only see the doorknob, and the rest of the house is invisible and made of ghosts. That is the current state of astrophysics. We have no idea what the majority of reality is made of. The Bloop. In 1997, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded a sound in the South Pacific. It was ultra-low frequency and incredibly loud. It was detected by sensors thousands of miles apart. They called it the Bloop. It sounded organic, like a living creature. But for a creature to make a noise that loud, it would have to be significantly larger than a blue whale. We are talking about a monster the size of the Eiffel Tower. Scientists eventually concluded it might have been an ice quake, a massive iceberg cracking. That is the official explanation. But for a brief moment, the world wondered if Cthulhu had hit the snooze button. The ocean covers 70% of the planet, and we have explored less of it than the surface of Mars. If something massive is hiding down there, we wouldn't know until it decided to say hello. We have split the atom and landed on the moon, but we still don't know who wrote the Voynich Manuscript or where the universe is hiding its mass. It's a humbling reminder that we are just hairless apes trying to figure out a puzzle that is missing half the pieces. If you have a theory about any of these, leave it in the comments so we can all pretend to be detectives. Like and subscribe for more confusion. See you in the next one.